Brilliance Audio presents The Untold History of the United States by Oliver Stone and Peter Kuznick, performed by Peter Berkrot.
We write this book as the curtain slowly draws down on the American empire. It was 1941 when magazine magnate Henry Luce declared the 20th century the American century. Little could he have imagined how true that would be, writing before the defeat of Germany and Japan, the advent of the atomic bomb, the boom in U.S. post-war production, the rise and institutionalization of the military-industrial complex, the development of the Internet, the transmogrification of the United States into a national security state, and the country's victory in the Cold War. Luce's vision of untrammeled U.S. hegemony has always been a contested one. Vice President Henry Wallace urged the United States to instead usher in what he called the century of the common man. Wallace, whom realists dismissed as a dreamer and a visionary, laid out a blueprint for a world of science and technology-based abundance, a world banning colonialism and economic exploitation, a world of peace and shared prosperity. Unfortunately, the post-war world has conformed much more closely to Luce's imperial vision than Wallace's progressive one. More recently, in 1997, a new generation of proponents of U.S. global supremacy, who would go on to constitute the neoconservative brain trust of the disastrous George W. Bush presidency, called for the establishment of a new American century. It was a perspective that gained many adherents in the earlier years of the 21st century, before the calamitous consequences of the United States' latest wars became widely recognized. The United States, run as global hegemon, the most powerful and dominant nation the world has ever seen, has been marked by proud achievements and terrible disappointments. It is the latter, the darker side of U.S. history, that we explore in the following pages. We don't try to tell all of U.S. history. That would be an impossible task. We don't focus extensively on many of the things the United States has done right. There are libraries full of books dedicated to that purpose, and school curricula that trumpet U.S. achievements. We are more concerned with focusing a spotlight on what the United States has done wrong, the ways in which we believe the country has betrayed its mission, with the faith that there is still time to correct those errors as we move forward into the 21st century. We are profoundly disturbed by the direction of U.S. policy at a time when the United States was recently at war in 3 Muslim countries and carrying out drone attacks, best viewed as targeted assassinations, in at least 6 others. Why does our country have military bases in every region of the globe, totaling more than 1,000 by some counts? Why does the United States spend as much money on its military as the rest of the world combined? Why does it still possess thousands of nuclear weapons, many on hair-trigger alert, even though no nation poses an imminent threat? Why is the gap between rich and poor greater in the United States than in any other developed country? And why is the United States the only advanced nation without a universal health care program? Why does such a tiny number of people, whether the figure is currently 300 or 500 or 2,000, control more wealth than the world's poorest 3 billion? Why are a tiny minority of wealthy Americans allowed to exert so much control over U.S. domestic politics, foreign policy, and media, while the great masses see a diminution of their real power and standards of living? Why have Americans submitted to levels of surveillance, government intrusion, abuse of civil liberties, and loss of privacy that would have appalled the Founding Fathers and earlier generations? Why does the United States have a lower percentage of unionized workers than any other advanced industrial democracy? Why, in our country, are those who are driven by personal greed and narrow self-interest empowered over those who extol social values like kindness, generosity, compassion, sharing, empathy, and community building?